Hi everyone, it's Kate. Welcome to the Success Without Sacrifice show. On today's very special episode, we are talking about why being a good girl could be bad for your career. Be sure to tune in. All right, everyone, welcome back. Excited about the show today. We are talking about how women, very successful women like you and I, tend to still play nice. We worry too much about what others are thinking, and we have this good girl approach to our success. So this is going to be an interesting show because I would bet Jadine, the amazing director of performance coaching, Jadine is here with me today on the show. And Jadine, thanks for being here because I would bet most women listening today, they probably don't think they are a good girl in the way that we normally hear about it. They probably think that they've been pretty badass to get where they're going. And so I think this is going to be a fun topic.
I agree with you, Kate. I think a lot of women listening will be like, no, I shed that good girl appearance or way of operating a long time ago. But what we don't realize is it shows up in these slices of our mini behaviors. And the good girl is preventing us from actually stepping forward and being the powerful woman who can be powerful in leadership and live her good life.
Ugh. Right there. Did you hear it? Good life. Okay. So let's just talk about that. I think most of us, if you're listening to this broadcast, you're in a place where, you're looking for the good life. We've all been trained and we've all been expecting that as we move up the career ladder, whether you're a doctor, you're an attorney, now a partner at a management consulting firm, maybe you're a director and you're driving a team, a woman in leadership. You've got your own company, whatever it is, you're in a position of influence. You're in a position of leadership. You're in a position of, let's just say, power. But it doesn't always feel that way. And what happens is we as women, even though we've got these wonderful titles, this amazing life on paper, everyone else is trying to get to where we're at, it just feels hard. And it just feels exhausting. I mean, I remember I was like, when do I get a break? When's it my turn? And I think the higher up you go, or the bigger the life that you've chosen to live, you do have this very precious thing, which is called limited time, and everyone wants a piece of it. And I think we can all agree that we want the things in our life. We want, whether you have a husband, wife, or partner, whether you have decided to have children or dogs or cats, whether you have aunts, uncles, aging parents, a board of directors that you sit on, whatever it is, all the things, those are the things that make up a life that feels successful, not just the career piece, even though our careers are going to be the priority. And so what's happened is as we've grown up from women being conditioned to make nice, which we'll talk about in a minute, we've added more and more things to our plate, right? We've added whatever it is, relationships, again, children or people, things, creatures that are dependent on us. We've added more and more responsibility, teams. We have leadership teams or clients who are depending on us. We have the people that we manage, and it's a lot. It is a lot. And here we are in the middle of it, being incredibly successful. And we're thinking, wow, what about me? Because here I am giving so much to everyone else. Why doesn't someone tap me on the shoulder and go, hey, take a break? Like, I cannot tell you how many times I wanted someone just to tap me on the shoulder and go, you know what, Kate, why don't you take a long weekend? You've worked so hard. Look at how successful you are. You need a break. And guess what, ladies? They never do they? You're just sitting there going, okay, when's it my turn? When's it my turn? And until you know how to ask, and ask in a way that won't disrupt your reputation or have people upset with you, what happens is, as women, we just keep working harder and harder and harder, hoping that if we just make sure everybody else is getting their needs met, eventually it'll be okay for us to take a little slice over here in the corner when no one is looking. Does that make sense? And in fact, we were talking about that, I think, quite a bit, a week ago at the retreat that we just hosted, Jadine.
Absolutely. So at our retreat, we work with a group of women. So either with us, you're getting unleashed, which is you're finding out how to live your life of freedom, Or if you're some of our more coveted clientele and you work with us for a longer period of time, you get to actually learn how to live your life of ease. So to Kate's point, we were at a retreat and we had 50 women who were working with us to learn how to live their life of ease. And one of the doctors in particular, when we kept talking to her about what does your dream life represent, she kept saying, I want a yacht, or I want a lake house. And what she was meaning by that when we started to dig deeper is she was looking for, Kate, to your point, she was looking for the reprieve so that one day she could actually escape to the lake house and everybody would be okay and she could actually enjoy her life and enjoy some rest. So as we dug deeper with her, we started to get her to recognize, what does the lake house represent for you? And she started to say, you know what? It represents being able to relax. It represents being able to be emotionally present in my life. It represents being able to feel cared for. And she'd never wanted to give herself permission to have the dream of being cared for because it seemed incongruent with how she was supposed to deliver her purpose in her life. Because this particular woman is a doctor. Yeah. And so when we can start to teach women like her, you know what? There's different ways for you to live your purpose in a way that doesn't leave you so burnt out. And in fact, when you learn how to live your purpose differently, you not only have the time for your life, you're not building a life you want to escape. You actually, you're building in being cared for as you go through your life. And you increase your ability to even influence when you're leading from this perspective.
Yeah, I think the word that you said that just really, I hope everyone heard that and I want to underscore is escape. What most of us are doing is two words, and everyone needs to write this down at some point. We're either, as highly successful women, looking for permission to take a break. And so we create it. And the way we create it is by trying to make sure everyone else's needs are met. Everyone else is satisfied. Everyone else is happy. Okay, is everyone happy? Okay, great. Now I'm going to AKA. So now I have permission because I feel like I've done so much for everyone else. Now it's okay for me to take a little bit of a break and I'm going to escape to, and then like you're saying, the beach house, the lake house, the yacht, the the corner drugstore to go buy ding dongs and ho-hos so I can just eat those in my car, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it becomes. I can remember, when I was a single mom, my daughter at one point, this was, years ago before they had a vaccine and all these things for chickenpox, she got chickenpox, which is horrible. I mean, it's just so horrible. If any of you have ever had it, it's just the worst. And I was relieved, I'm ashamed to say, in that moment that she had the chickenpox because I now had permission to call in work and say, I can't come in. I've got to be home with my daughter. She has the chickenpox, which of course is a very, valid reason for not coming into work. But would I have ever done that for myself? No. I worked through bronchitis. I've had walking pneumonia more times than I can count. And I've been in business meetings all over the world with walking pneumonia. I've been stuck overseas, not able to fly home because I had walking pneumonia. I mean, seriously, like what happens is we're so worried about making sure everyone else is okay that we're not caring for ourselves. And then we're depleted. And then what happens is we just walk away. We burn out, we crumple, we crash. We're not able to get to the next level. And if you think that doesn't impact you, you might be like, no, Kate, I've been doing this for 20 years. It does. Because when you are operating from a place of depletion, not only are you not giving your best in your home life, in living the way that's more authentic to you, but certainly people see that in the office, right? They know that you're on edge. They know that you're exhausted. They know that you're short-tempered or short with them, or you don't have time, or you're just like, come on, let's go, let's go. I mean, I used to walk around the office and just be like, yeah. Okay, a bunch of nice talk. Let's get back down to the point because I got like a million things to do today that I got to jam in and get finished. So on the one hand, we're trying to make sure everyone gets their needs met, but we're doing it in ways, very often, ladies, that even makes us seem either submissive because we're so over accommodating, or we're short and, like I was a bull in the china shop. I was like, don't mess with Kate. Like she's on a rampage. And I don't know if you had ever walked up to me and said, Kate, you're such a good girl. I would have been like, what are you talking about? If anything, I have a reputation for not being very nice. And so when we say good girl, ladies, we're not talking about being a good girl and saying, oh, please, and thank you, and I'm sorry. Although that's an issue for a lot of us as well. It's more about constantly worrying, what does everyone else think? If I wrote an email, oh my gosh, did I write it correctly? Did I say it the right way? How are people going to interpret that? What are they going to think when they receive it? Oh my gosh, there was a typo. Should I have copied this person? Like the festering of worry about what others think is just, if that is going on for you, that is going to kill your career and any chance to have success without sacrifice faster than anything. I would say 90%, definitely 90% of the women we talk to, as well as who we work with, when we ask them how many hours they're working, a lot are working 70, 80 hours a week, but a lot aren't working that many hours. They may only be working 40, 50, maybe even 60 hours, but they're constantly worrying and thinking over and over and over again about work. And ultimately what that comes back to is conditioning we've had as little girls, right? To make sure we make nice, make sure everybody's okay before we get our own needs met. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it makes sense. And to your point about conditioning, Kate, there's two ways for us to look at this as women. One of the ways is, yes, we are conditioned to be the workhorse. Especially as high performers, we believe we bring our value because we catch all of the balls. And here's the thing, as high-performing women, we catch the balls because we see them. So this is one of the skill sets that women have that arguably, as a generalization, men aren't seen as having the same type of skill set. Men are seen to be the ones who actually drive towards the target. Now, here's the advantage. Women actually have an advantage for being able to actually bring value in a different way if we pause long enough to consider how do we want to bring value. So because we have more estrogen physiologically, we actually see interactions and relationships more strongly than our counterparts may. So women actually see it, and we see the interplay and connection. And if we see what needs to happen, if we pause long enough to consider how do we actually want to bring impact and don't go towards, Kate said, what we've been conditioned to do, we actually have an opportunity to make a very impactful, an impact on how things actually happen.
I love that you're saying that, because that's a big piece about what we teach, right? It's everyone wants to believe that, and I did it for years too. What are the right words I could say? What's a boundary I could put up? How do I talk to my company or my boss about working fewer hours? How do I get my team where they need to be so I can just relax and not have to do all the heavy lifting? And so all of these things, I'm not saying that they're not things that you want to be skilled at or strategies that you shouldn't try. They're wonderful, but that's not really how you begin to create like massive influence with some ease, so that you can pause in the moment and say, well, wait a minute. Yes, I do have that estrogen and I do have that ability to look around the room and notice how this comment or how this conversation is going to land. That empathetic communication for women does come more natural in many ways. But also, when am I overdoing it? When am I overthinking it? When is it too much of a good thing? And have that calibration. It's really about you changing who you are. And when you can start having greater brevity in that communication, greater brevity in that decisiveness, and instead of constantly worrying about what everyone else thinks and say, wait a minute, I'm not responsible for everyone else's emotions. I might stand up as a leader and say something with all the best intention, and someone may get upset. I may send an email with a typo because I've got so much going on. I've got bigger things to worry about than my spelling right now. I may say something out of turn and step on someone's toes inadvertently. But you know what? I can handle that on the back end in a conversation if someone comes to me, because relationships are two-way streets, ladies. And we have not been taught this. And this is where the conditioning comes in as little girls, right? Think about it. Boys are playing. This is stereotypes. It's not everyone, but for the most part, when boys are playing, like I was just this past weekend, I wanted to do something with my boys. I have two boys, and I said, "Hey boys, do you want to go do this?" No. Not, "Oh gosh, that sounds nice, Mom. You know, that's a really great idea. I mean, well, how long would it take? I mean, I could maybe go for a few minutes," which is what women would do. They were just like, "No." And I was like, okay. And I didn't take it personal. I wasn't upset. And I was like, oh, well, how about this? And they were like, nah. And I said, well, how about this? And they were like, nah, not today. They didn't think twice about it. They weren't trying to hurt my feelings. They didn't think I was hurt. They're just like, no, I don't want to. Women, we see all the memes all over the internet, like just say no. But why can't we do that? Why isn't it easier for us? Do you ever wonder that? You know, saying no is an option, but we don't do it because we've been conditioned internally that saying no means that you are not being a nice little girl. With little girls, when they get together to play, we're saying you need to share. Be sure, oh, well, you know what? Susie didn't get invited to the party. Why don't you invite her? And I'm not saying some of those things don't happen for boys too, but overall, boys are in the backyard and they're beating each other up with, like whatever. They're playing games of that are very like physical and those kinds of things. And nobody thinks like, oh, well, you really shouldn't play, cops and robbers or whatever they're playing. You're like, oh, boys will be boys in their backyard doing that. Or where girls do that, we're like, oh, no, that's not really nice. So you should include this other person. Be sure everyone gets a chance. Like my boys, they're running through the house just like pell-mell. Do you know what I'm saying? With all that testosterone. And so what happens is little girls, we're conditioned to make nice. And the reason that conditioning happens is what happens when you're a little girl and you share, or you invite Susie to the party, or you make you make sure that there's space for someone else's feelings before your own. What happens? A parent or a teacher or someone gives you some sort of appreciation, which is a form of love. Oh my gosh, that was so lovely, JD. And that was so nice that you and the girls played so nicely together. That was, you know what I mean? And then you hear this and you go, oh, well, that must be, I'm valuable. You like that because you're giving me attention. And so then we do it again and then we do it again. And we start noticing as little girls, we get attention and validation for making room for everyone else. And we don't get attention or validation when we're strong in our no. Then we're saying, well, what do you mean no? Explain that, and then we're questioned. With boys, when they say no, I didn't challenge my sons this weekend when they said no. I was just like, okay. Do you see what I'm saying? And so that conditioning is prevalent and it works for a long time. Isn't it nice to be working with a woman who's making sure you get your needs met? That feels pretty good. But guess what we've just done? We've trained everyone else around us to come to us to do the heavy lifting. And that's why, like Jadine, you were just saying, we become the workhorse because we're so busy making sure everyone else gets a helper, everyone else gets a point of view, everyone else gets us to help them with the leg up. Are you sure that, what do you think about this or what do you think about that? And we're so inclusive that we've taught everyone else that this is who we are and this is what we like doing. And then we're burning out and walking away from our careers because that no doesn't sound natural. And it's not until you learn how to recalibrate biologically and psychologically that no and understand when it's well placed and when you do need to make room for everyone else. Because you can't just move from one end of the spectrum to the other. We can't go from being all things to everyone to just being the girl who always says no. Nobody wants to work with that person either.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Kate, you bring up such a good point in that there's a difference between the cognitive frame of understanding we need to say no sometimes and being able to deliver this message in a way that's authentic and it lands. And we only start to build our ability to be this woman who is the powerful woman who can see the needs in the room, including her own, and decide which one to attend to first. That's the stance of a powerful woman. And so when you start to align your biology and your physiology with understanding your own needs and the needs of others, you can proactively make decisions to decide how to lean into your best self and how to anoint this in other people. So we're not talking about changing who you are. We're talking about leveraging and connecting with the power that is within you and doing it in a different way you've never been exposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about, this sounds like such a hackneyed phrase. I don't like it, but it's like leveling up who you are. It's not changing who you are and getting rid of all the things that have created your success. You're driven, you're ambitious. Like that's never changed in me. I'm going to be driven, ambitious till my final breath because that's creating, that's exciting, that's who I am, but driven, ambitious towards a life of success, not just being successful at work, and then understanding how can your career be a big and significant piece of your life where you do have impact, but you're doing it with less time, less stress, less personal angst, because for this piece of it, you're not trying to please everyone. You're trying to get everyone together and work towards a common goal. And we know this, right? We know as leaders, we can't always be liked. But then what does that look like to what Janine's just said, right? What does that look like? How do you be a leader that can move forward powerfully with your team? Yes, you're going to be fun. And yes, you're going to be enjoyable. And yes, you're going to be approachable and empathetic and all these things you want to be, but also move through quickly those difficult conversations where you can say no, and that's just the way it is. And this is the way it's going to be without trying to constantly lift your team up and hold them up and be that workhorse. And the same thing with your company. Rather than telling all the clients and all the leaders and all the colleagues and everyone, yep, I got it. Yep, I'll catch the ball. Yep, got that strong work ethic. Work ethic is just needs to be somebody just needs to put a blowtorch on that word. I know where it came from, and historically that was wonderful. But work ethic is just like the old way of working, and it just works you into a grave, or it just works you out of a job. Because eventually what happens is you get passed over, or you just like collapse. And that's what I finally did. I just collapsed. I was like, I have nothing left to give. And so there's two pieces of really breaking out of this good girl framework. One is, and this is the first thing we do with every single woman we work with, is you have to start operating from a place of fulfillment instead of depletion. Because any change you're trying to make, if you're trying to make it from a place of depletion, is going to be, even your best shot is going to be too weak. It doesn't matter. And I would bet, Jadine, that world-class athletes do not come to do, all the amazing things that they do that are very physical if they have the flu, or if they have pneumonia, or if they're, injured in some way, right? They have to be able to say, I'm not going to be able to get in the pool today, or certainly not do in the pool what I would normally do if I was at full strength. But yet here we are as executive women or successful business owners saying, well, then I'm going to come at my job more and more and more and more depleted, sicker and sicker and sicker from stress, from anxiety, from lack of sleep, from lack of getting my needs met, and I'm going to perform at my best. There's no way. And now you're not only going to perform at your best, you have to perform in a different way that's going to be uncomfortable, like learning how to say no and learning how to be less of a good girl. If you're depleted, you have to be getting your needs met. And that's why that's the number one thing we do. Everyone comes to us and they're like, what should I say to my boss? Or what should I say to my team? And I'm like, we'll get to that in a couple weeks. You need to be really operating from a place of total vibrancy. Now we can start making changes from a place of fulfillment, right? So that's the first step.
Well, as I'm listening to you, I'm obviously agreeing with what you're saying. And the other thing we need to remember is, if we're not going to do it for our lives and for us to feel better, we need to understand that being a good girl is actually bad for our reputation. So we've been fed a lie that being the good girl is actually going to get us influence, and it's actually going to get us the title we want and the life we want. What we know is good girls don't get respected. Powerful women do. Just like the workhorse doesn't get respected, but the wizard does. Yes. So we need to find ways, and we can teach you those ways, for how do you lean into being a woman who has influence. And you need to shift how you bring value to an organization and your perception of how you bring value. So if you're not clear on that, and to Kate's point, if you don't know how to operate from that place, you're bringing a depleted self to a losing game.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and I think the other piece about that is powerful women, they don't go home and then vent to their spouse for 2 hours about all the second guessing and decisions they made today. And do you think people are upset? And what do you think? And what should I do? That's not what it feels like to be powerful. Being powerful, it feels like you walk in the door and go, hey, honey, I'm home. Do you want to go, whatever it is you do, want to go for a walk, or do you want to go make dinner together, or whatever it is? So that's the other piece that I hope everyone listening to this really understands, that it's not just when you come at it from your needs being met and you've got that calibration, now you can start creating these shifts and this up leveling, but it's going to feel uncomfortable. And so what happens is I think we all as women hear things like, let's just say, a very common thing is you should say no more often. So we say no and we do it and we get it out of our mouth, and then it feels uncomfortable and we're not sure. Did I do it right? Did I say it to the right person? Should I have said it in this case? Should I have not said it in this case? So then the festering happens because we're not sure if we have done it in a way that damages our reputation or enhances it. And that is a very clear distinction, because I think all of us have either been or worked for a woman who said no. I wouldn't want to be her, though. Do you know what I mean? She is that bull in the china shop who now all of a sudden becomes the person who's just like, no, 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 no. And you get a reputation for being tough to work with, non-responsive, not someone that you want in the room. And so you have to know how to dynamically do this. And the best way is to monitor how you're getting your needs met so that you understand, you know what, this weekend is a good weekend to work. I really do need to work this weekend, and that's okay. this weekend's not a good weekend to work. I'm going to say no, or whatever that situation is. This is the time I'm going to say yes to the client. This is a situation I'm going to say no to the client. It has to be dynamic. It cannot be a hard boundary. And women want hard boundaries. We want to have one conversation. That's it. Everybody agree? This is the way we're going to do it from now on. Oh gosh, okay, now I have permission to behave this way, right? And then it just doesn't work that way. Not at this level. Maybe at some other level in your career and some other lifestyle. But if you're a woman who wants a big career and a big life, you have to understand how to navigate through this, like Jadine said, with power. And that comes from understanding your own internal calibration, elevating that. So one, you're vibrant. And two, you're not constantly psychologically festering about the decisions you make, because there's no joy in that either, right? So it really takes both, right?
It does take both. And to your point, Kate, it has to be an intelligent no, or like you said, an intelligent yes, right? So, and all of the women we know who listen to our podcast are those women who aren't willing to settle. You're the women who don't want to step away from career. You want to actually lean into your career and have a great life, right? So learning how to flow at that level comes from being able to be proactive about what do you need, so that you can show up with this energy and you can lead from this place. And interestingly, there's a couple of examples from people we work with from last week. This one woman, she's learned how to lead with influence and how to actually honor herself. So much so she now calls herself the Lush Executive, which is a true story. And as of last week, she received a surprise bonus, she said, which is over half of her current salary, complete surprise. And this is from her operating differently. This is from her not saying no, to Kate's point, to all the meetings, but from deciding how she brings value and deciding which other activities she'll farm out. Now, here's the best part. She received the bonus raise, and then there was a major crisis that hit her team before the weekend. And the major celebration, and what she said is, she's like, Jadine, here's the best part. I got the raise, it was a surprise, and I didn't fester all weekend. I got on the phone, made a few phone calls, divvied out some work, said to everybody, we'll figure this out. Let's reconnect on Monday. And she went and had a fabulous weekend at her lake house. True story.
All right, drop the mic. Drop the mic. Everyone who's listening, I don't know how else to wrap up today's show other than that. That's absolutely what it is. And that's what it should feel like. And ladies, that's what we're all doing. We're running around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to find what that example of what Jadine just said. And here we're seeing it happen day in, day out from the women who work with us. So if that sounds like a story you want to live, here's the thing. I want to invite you to a very special offer where we would love to invite you to have a chat with one of our breakthrough coaches. So book a call with us. And in that conversation, it's 45 to 60 minutes, absolutely confidential. What we want to do is we want to talk to you and see, where's the good girl showing up for you? How is that holding you back? What is the opportunities you have in your own career to actually create the success you truly want, which has a ton of freedom, a lot of control, but also this higher level influence that Jadine's talking about. And ladies, this is something that, you know, that is just priceless. Like, this is something that you want to do for you. It's like getting your master's degree, right? So you have all the knowledge that you need, you have the intelligence, you have the track record, but without this piece, again, it's like running a race without any Gatorade or water. It's just like, you've got to have this last piece to really enjoy that success, because the way we've been taught is broken and it's not getting you there. But we would be delighted to speak with you. And in that call, we'll talk to you about your career. We'll see what's working, what's not, and how we can help. And look, if we can help you, fabulous. We'll be glad to tell you what that looks like and show you how. If not, we have a whole host of resources that we're delighted to recommend as well. So no matter what, make the time, have the conversation, see what's possible for you. Because look, good girls do finish last. We don't want you to finish last. We want you thriving as a leader, as a successful businesswoman, as a doctor, as an attorney. Your impact matters, right? That makes a big difference in this world. And we want you to enjoy it. We don't want to lose you from the leadership position you're in. So that wraps up this episode, ladies. So I hope you enjoyed, and we can't wait to see you again next time. Bye. Hi, thanks for tuning into today's show. If you want to subscribe, you can do that by clicking the little picture of me over there. If you want to book a breakthrough call, which you absolutely should do, you can click the button below or go to goodlifeinstitute.org/call to book an appointment to speak to us. I'll see you on the next